Tempers flared at Bangor's City Council bi-monthly meeting yesterday.
White power.
Yeah, that was the supposed voice of a Zoom caller who claimed to be named Eric Palmer. They used the public comment period to speak in support of ICE while using expletives and white nationalist language. This prompted a reaction from Councilor Joseph Leonard, who said hate mongers like the caller aren't welcome in the city. Leonard then appeared to throw a pen at someone in the room while making an obscene gesture and swearing at them. Later in the meeting, while speaking out against a rezoning ordinance, another caller who said they were Jeffrey Goldstein of Bangor called Leonard a homophobic slur. To that, Leonard laughed. At the end of the meeting, Leonard addressed the callers and his outburst.
I'm not going to apologize for my actions earlier today against despicable people that this country sacrificed hundreds of thousands, millions of lives to eradicate that horrible ideology. In this moment, in this history right now, if you are apologizing for Nazis, if you are on the side of defending Nazis, guess what? You're on the wrong side of history and you need to wake up.
This is not the first time Zoom callers have used hateful speech during Bangor City Council meetings. It's led to a debate over the virtual option's continued use. A few members of the public spoke in support last night of keeping Zoom, citing free speech and accessibility concerns. The council doesn't meet again until November 10th. That's after the upcoming municipal election, when voters will choose 3 new councilors. Leonard's term doesn't end until 2020.